The city council meeting for the committee of the whole. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Councilmember Brockman. Here. Councilmember Ross.
Here.
Councilmember Tapia. Councilmember Littleworth.
Here.
Councilmember Stone. Here. Councilmember Bloomberg.
Here.
Mayor Murray.
Here, we have a quorum. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 28th as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Our scheduled business this evening is going to be a fun talk about business development and community development. And no action, obviously, because it's committee of the whole, but we're going to hear all kinds of great info and what everyone's been working on, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. So this evening, we have one item on the Committee of the Whole agenda, and I am pleased to introduce Aaron Jason, one of our Assistant City Managers, and also Joel Fontaine, our Director of Community Development. We have planned this evening to provide a high-level overview of the operations of business development as well as community development, specifically as it pertains to services, programs, and initiatives that the city provides, primarily to the business community, but also to the general public as well. There are no policy questions or policy direction that we're asking this evening. This is really just for informational purposes, but of course, we welcome your feedback at any time. So we do have a PowerPoint presentation that we'll go through. And then also for public information, we included quite a bit of information in the staff report, just for background and reference, so anyone public watching or has an interest, they can not only follow the PowerPoint, but they'll have resource information that's included in the packet as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Assistant Manager Jason.
Great.
Thank you, Gita. I have a lot of detailed information, so I may read some to you and not always make eye contact. Please forgive me. So as a core priority, business development is the job of all city team members. So tonight we're going to go over, as City Manager Newkirk mentioned, specifically what business development and community development have to do with that process. So we're going to talk about business development staffing, business development strategic plan, the business registration and licensing process, and community development's development and business technical assistant piece, as well as what Joel and I and Gina kind of term as the ongoing commitment from the team. So first, a little bit about CMO and the Business Development Division. So not only is business development the job of all city team members, it's also the job of the City Council and the Business and Economic Development Advisory Group of BDAG. So thank you all for being our partners in this process. The following is the org chart for the City Manager's Office, or the CMO department, depending on how you want to call it, which includes the Business Development Division. Business development itself includes 2.5 budgeted employees. You have the full-time business development manager, a full-time business development specialist, and a part-time business development specialist. In addition to those dedicated positions, business development is also a focus area and a function of the following roles in CMO: the city manager, myself as an assistant city manager, the marketing coordinator, and members of the clerk's division, including the assistant to the city manager, and the administrative program specialist. And I say those specific roles, but really at any time, any member of CMO or any department may be called upon for something that's specific to business and economic development. So they may be tasked with performing functions directly related to those goals. And then the volunteer-based BDAG, which we mentioned, they also play an important role in business development. The advisors work alongside city staff to support community programs that promote business and economic development. They provide advisory recommendations related to the strategic plan and associated programs and policies. For instance, this week at a special meeting, we'll be talking about streeteries to give additional feedback on that policy that Council has begun discussing in Committee of the Whole. And then they also assist with business development outreach and communications. And I know it's always hard when we put an org chart on there. There's a lot of moving pieces. I know Joel's going to feel the same way when he shows you the department slide for community development. We're happy to share this, and it is in the budget book as well, so you do have a closer to read cover of that. So the Business Development Division. Located at City Hall, the Business Development Office works with prospective businesses seeking a location in Highland Park, serves as the personal guide for all 750 plus existing businesses who need assistance with various city inquiries. They support the SSAs. They manage the large special events which occur in the Ravinia Business District. They support the events in the CBD. They work with brokers to keep new businesses and new business transactions moving forward. They manage business registration and outdoor dining permits. They serve as a liaison to BDAG, and they support the city infrastructure and general improvement efforts in the business districts, among other functions. Whether working with a new business starting out, an existing business looking for a place to put down roots in Highland Park, or an existing local business planning to expand or downsize within the community, the city is here to assist. We are not just here for new businesses, we are not just here for existing, we're here for all businesses in all their different roles, and I just want to make sure we stress that. And further stress that the city team will help stakeholders find the right location, navigate the license, registration, and permit and grant application processes, and we will discuss all HP has to offer them and their enterprise, wherever they are in their journey. Some come to us early in their journey, some come late, but we try to make sure that everyone's going the same path forward together and connecting people along the way. So another major focus of this group is communication to and about the business community through the business e-news, regular outreach by phone, in person, via email communication, and to the public through e-news, the Weekender, kiosks, and other communication modalities. The city also holds specialty meetings with business owners, such as the restaurant owner meeting that was held earlier this year, as pictured on this slide. We meet regularly with property owners and the Business Alliance and other stakeholders. In 2024, we also saw the return of the city's annual business community meeting, with the staff and the city council providing education on what is new in the community, as well as, and I think this is really a vital part of economic development, as well as providing a forum for our businesses to speak directly to all of you and to all of us together. The division works closely with property owners and brokers, as we mentioned. They maintain an active map of available properties to share with prospective businesses. And in 2023, as part of major projects, the team began a review of existing incentive programs, as well as looking for opportunities to bring additional incentive programs to the community. We introduced and expanded the exterior grant program as part of that through council policy. We also added the boutique incentive and the food and beverage interior grant program in 2024, thanks to council moving forward with those policies. This year, the city also invested in Placer AI, which is a data collection tool that uses phone locations to determine foot traffic and other metrics at various locations. You may remember we first talked about that in August of 2023. I have a slide a little bit later on to tell you a little bit more of how we're utilizing that data. So I talked about a lot of different things that business development does, but these are like where we actually take those, all those different tools and kind of narrow them down into focus areas. So the different functions break down this way. They're about creating the environment, offering signature events, encouraging outdoor dining, promoting walkability, highlighting the city's assets, practicing placemaking, and investing in infrastructure. They're also about helping projects get to yes. This is more than just lip service from us. This is something we take very seriously every day. And this is across all departments because it usually takes all departments to get a project, especially one that's harder to do and harder to manage, across the finish line. So how do we do that? We leverage incentives, we work with property owners and stakeholders, we know the inventory that we have to offer, and we also are a resource and in some ways a command center for those businesses going through the process, making sure that everyone's connecting and communicating. We also build relationships, and if any of you have sat privately and talked economic development with me in your tenure here, you know I feel so strongly about building relationships as being a key cornerstone of economic development and business development. And that's understanding and getting to know the players in the marketplace and their objectives. Just knowing the person doesn't help if you don't know what their objectives are and what their wants and needs are. Not just for the local business community, but property owners, commercial real estate professionals, and local and regional partners. This is also about sharing information, enhancing communications across multiple platforms, increasing awareness, and promoting existing assets. And last but certainly not least, it's about taking strategic action, exploring and supporting business positive policy considerations, recognizing and engaging growing businesses that would be beneficial to the community, and growing the city's reputation as a great place not only to live, not only to work, but also to do business. And as staff navigates these focus areas, we are always taking feedback and seeking opportunities to enhance and improve the business processes and experiences for those we are partnering with. So a little bit on kind of, now I've told you what we do, but what we gleaned from that in 2024. So some current business information. You're aware of our incentive programs, the exterior improvement program, the food and beverage interior improvement grant applications, and the boutique incentive. These are just 3 major incentives that in the last year and a half we've really pushed out to the community. And you can see some of the investments that have already been sought by our business community, new and existing. There's a couple that have asterisks on the slides, and those are ones that are either before you tonight for approval, or will be before you either next week or upcoming council meeting. So we're really excited about that. And food and beverage at this point in time, we've looked at over $535,000 in incentives in this year alone since that project became active, that grant. And for the exterior grant, once we updated that program at the end of the year, coming into this year, we're just over $68,000 in grant asks for that grant. So people are using it. People are using it for big projects, small projects. I know when we talked about expanding them, sometimes people say, well, only it's up to 20,000, but that only looks like 5 grants if the budget's 100,000. But we have grants here that are for just under $600, $3,000. Those make a difference to businesses, big and small, what you're able to do with those dollars. And I always like to point out, if you don't see my giant 55 there, we've had 55 new businesses open in the community this year. And I like that big giant 55 because it leads me into my next slide, which is about our occupancy rates. We've all heard the rhetoric and the conversation that we have large vacancies in town. I'd just like to point out that our current retail occupancy is 93.1%. Our current office office occupancy is 88.9%. And for industrial, we're at 99% occupancy for what we currently have in the marketplace. Now, this is all according to data we've received from CoStar, so it may be off a little here or there, plus or minus. And I'll tell you, business development staff was a little bit leery about talking about industrial at this time because we believe that total square footage number still includes the former Solo Cup site footprint. We decided not to try to adjust it at this time because we know that in the future they'll be hopefully doing a new development at that space, and then we'll adjust it at that time. So just keep that in mind. Even with that space, we're at 99% occupancy. And then we talked about Placer AI. So Placer AI reports are provided periodically after major city events take place. Key metrics such as number of visitation per event, you can get it per block, per area. You can really dig deep on that data point. Visitor journeys and visits by hour are tracked for each event. So the chart here on the bottom, just one metric that we thought was interesting once we started tracking it, now that we've learned how to use Placer, our training has been done. And so you can see, great, we knew for Vintage Car Show we had about 2,100 people here. But now we know for decades with the 4,900 that we know for sure unique visitors were here. We know that 39.5% were residents and 60.5% were from out of town, which is exactly what we want. We want more people to come and learn more and enjoy Highland Park with us. So this is just some of the data points that we can pull in regards to that. We also use Placer AI's void analysis feature to target attractive complementary business uses to vacant spaces by analyzing cannibalization, audience demographic, and co-tenancy to determine best fits. So we're able to use the data from Placer AI and determine where are we losing people out of town, where are people going to outside of Highland Park, or what do we not have to offer that people we know are spending dollars on, and where do they like to collate? Do you like to be near Jewel? Do you like to be near Starbucks? Do you like to be near small boutiques? We can find that information out through Placer AI, which is really great for us to share. And then our businesses in Highland Park can request reports once per quarter. So you can request a really specialized report that would show visits by hour, visits by day, visitors by zip code, demographics and audience overview, prior and post destinations. So where did you come before you came to visit my store or restaurant? Where did you go after? And then the visitor's journey. So if they went to more than one place in Highland Park, it's a great way for us to say, as we start collecting this data, hey, operator B, did you know that usually when people come to see you, they also go to C, D, and A? You should connect with them and maybe do joint efforts. Maybe you all want to stay out open late some nights together because this is who your customers are going to see before and after they come to see you. So really great data. We've done 11 of those so far to date. Now it is important to note that some businesses are not going to be able to generate the type of data points that we're looking for specific to their space. We're still learning about that, but the good thing is, even if we can't drill down to your specific location, we can do your business district, your block, and things of that nature, and that's something we've started doing. So quarterly, Corey, who's with us here today, has just started in October. He's offering a webinar quarterly to talk about the 6 different business districts and data that we've learned from Placer AI in those districts. Not only is he providing that, as a service, you can log in and watch your business district, all the business districts. It's also sent out in the Business e-News. It's also sent out specifically to stakeholders who would need that information. So property owners, brokers, et cetera, are getting these reports automatically, even if they don't chime in into the webinar.
Actually, we're going to let Erin finish, and I think everybody's got questions. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm going to touch a little bit on the business development strategic plan next. So the strategic plan was updated in early 2023 is when it's actually approved, but really the legwork for it was done in 2021 and 2022. After extensive outreach and development, the plan's focus areas allowed for new organizational approaches, enhanced community branding, and strengthening existing practices. City staff leads the implementation of the plan. However, policy is set by the City Council, as you know, and volunteer efforts by BDAG in support of business retention and marketing collaboration with community and regional partners are crucial for amplifying the message that Highland Park is a premier location for doing business. A major project of the Business Development Division in 2025 will be updating the strategic plan again with the assistance from BDAG and identified stakeholder groups. So early planning for this is we've already started setting dates in January and on through the whole first and second quarter for meeting with stakeholder groups. Commercial brokers, residential brokers, restaurants, boutiques, etc. So all different stakeholders were already starting to plan for that. With the current strategic plan, the focus areas include business retention and attraction. So that's coordinating efforts to retain existing businesses, provide support, economic incentives and resources, while also proactively conducting stakeholder outreach, placemaking and promoting policies that attract new businesses to the community. The staff report listed a whole bunch of different ways in which we utilize business attraction and retention. If you want any specific examples, I'm happy to give them to you during the Q&A, but otherwise please refer to the report or we would be here all night. Marketing and communications. I was talking about this is enhancing the communications and interactions. That's the weekly Business e-News. Enjoy Highland Park, including updated format and addition of new content and design this year, continuing into next year. The Weekender, city data one-sheets, the Whom Should I Call, and I Called the City and, always a popular one for us. The downtown digital kiosks, business alerts, biannual email to commercial brokers and property owners listing new businesses and total square footage leased. The Highlander, new business coming soon sign program we're working on with the Chamber. Social media on Facebook and Instagram, and sharing opportunities for businesses to collaborate on special events. This also would include partnerships, which we're going to talk about partnerships coming up, but when we talk about them, Visit Lake County is a great example. That we rejoined last year, Visit Lake County, and they amplify our events and give discounts to restaurants and other businesses in Highland Park that want to direct join with them as well. So Linford Winery, Ravinia Brewing Co., Bluegrass, those are some of the restaurants that participate directly with Visit Lake County at a reduced rate because of our membership, and then they're able to do the Lake County Restaurant Week and different programs like that. So community vibrancy. This includes alfresco dining and events at the Lot, summer concerts in Port Clinton, new programs like Decades and the Scarecrow Walk, the Ravinia Candy Stroll and Cookie Crawl, business district lights being on year-round. I think we all kind of take it for granted now when it's a night like tonight when it's dark and we leave here and, oh, look, all the white lights are still on, but that used to not be the case. We have them on year-round now. Participation by businesses in the Arbor Day celebration. Additional outdoor dining, revisiting that and looking at different ways to expand and change and grow that program. And then activities like the holiday lighting ceremony. I always like to make a plug. So if you're not doing anything on this Saturday, the 23rd, it starts at 4:30 p.m. in Port Clinton Square, and the lights will go on at 4:45, but Santa and Hanukkah Harry will be there all the way to 6:30. And then local and regional partnerships. This is a list of some of our great partners. We were going back and forth. I think we could have made 4 or 5 more slides with people we all consider individualized partners. But as I mentioned before, relationships are a vital part of economic development. Nurturing these connections provides opportunities to bring new investment and reinvestment into the community. It brings enhanced visibility and awareness to Highland Park and supports regional growth and connectivity. An example of how we work with partners in promotion and support is the Chamber of Commerce. We've really worked hard in the last year to reconnect and reforge a relationship, kind of revitalize that relationship as they're under new management, and make sure that we're supporting their programs and activities. So whenever they have an event that's open to all businesses, we promote that in the Business E-News. You see here, Corey is at the ribbon cutting here for Flex Personal Training on First Street this year. So just lots of different opportunities to partner. And the Business E-News regularly promotes, as I said, opportunities for support from the Small Business Administration and educational offerings through SCORE. So there's great information that we're sharing from our partners out with our business community on a regular basis. One of the other items in the strategic plan is administrative and regulatory processes. This is an area you should all be very familiar with. Some of the recent policy discussions we had: streeteries, renewal of SSA 19, mural ordinance, conversations on shipping and storage containers, etc. It's in this area, I feel most, that staff is truly an advocate for the business community. This is where staff can really voice our advocacy directly to council when we present policy based on the conversations and the feedback we're receiving from the stakeholders, not just the business owners, but the property owners and the commercial brokers working in the area who are seeing things regionally or throughout the state and saying to us, this isn't working out, that's not working out, or our own experiences. It is the job of every member on our team, no matter what department, but I will speak specifically to CMO. I'm going to read it so I don't forget exactly what I wanted to say. It's the role of all CMO staff members when working with the business community to identify antiquated content or potential stumbling blocks in the existing code or processes and bring them to their supervisor for review and potential amendment recommendations. And I think that really all falls into this administrative and regulatory processes piece. And in addition to like the policy part, this is also where we talk about updating and the creation of new incentive policies and things of that nature. Development and repositioning of prospects is also an area of the strategic plan. I think this one is the most vague in terms of if you're not really in the thick of it all the time, to look at it and say, what do you mean by this, Aaron? And for me, this is exploring ways to get to yes, continuing to streamline city processes and increase efficiency while practicing proactive customer service. I'm going to say that part again. While practicing proactive customer service. It is so important for us every day to be on our game, not just providing after the fact customer service, but proactive customer service. And I'm really proud of all we've done and all we do when we talk and have team meetings. That's what we talk about. What have we heard in the community? What are we hearing from brokers? What have BDAG advisors shared with us? So we can be proactive. So we're not being surprised at meetings or upset by something that somebody went to somebody else to talk about instead of coming to us when there was an issue. So these are things we really are working hard on. And that helps us be an active partner in the process. And then the last part of the strategic plan that has to do directly with business development is infrastructure improvements. And obviously, business development is not out there, breaking up the streets or painting curbs, etc. I mean, we call Ron all the time and say, can you move this garbage can? We need more recycling over on this street, more bike racks here. But in terms of business development's role and CMO's role, we support and promote these opportunities for city investment. We support the placemaking, the vibrancy, the functionality, and access to the business districts that infrastructure investment brings. Investment in infrastructure improvements not only enhances the city's business districts, and it also facilitates the use and enjoyment of these business districts. And that's so important right now. And then last thing for me to talk to you about right now is the process to register for your business. So in 2023 and 2024, staff and business development and community development, along with BDAG, worked to revise the city's doing business guide. The content piece of that, the draft content piece of that was in the packet for you this evening, but I want to make sure you understand that will be beautified now. It's with the designers to kind of put together, put in the great pictures, put in the great graphics to make that a whole in its final format. This new guide will serve as a reference tool not only for the completion of business registration, but to the permitting processes surrounding build-out, special or conditional uses, and other permits that a new or existing business may be required to obtain. The guide provides both a short checklist and a comprehensive overview of the process of opening a business in Highland Park. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to read the whole book, here's a short checklist for you. Make sure you do these things. If you want to get into the nitty gritty, it's also included in that booklet. In addition to walking stakeholders step by step through the establishment of their businesses, the guide also includes at-a-glance information to inform and support businesses, from submitting their letter of intent to setting up water service, from applying for incentives to sharing content for marketing. The guide is designed to place all the pertinent information for the business owners in one place, because there is a lot. If you are a business owner, the sky's the limit. Your information about businesses and doing business is all over the code, it's all over the website. There's no way to have it in one space that makes sense unless you have one small guide that really and clearly puts it in an easy, usable format. And I just want to give a shout out to BDEG. This is exactly the type of project that our advisory groups are so strong in. They took this on as a special project. A small group really worked hard on it, worked with designers to find the right designer to really make sure that their content was what the city wants to put out there. So every business, including non-for-profits in a commercially zoned building, must register with the city before opening. Each year after the initial registration and licenses, businesses must update their business information and pay an annual renewal fee. And those fees are set in the annual fee resolution. In 2023, the city moved to an online permit format. The online portal allows users to pay city invoices, submit most applications for permits, plans, and licenses for services, and access information related to their project or business. City staff encourages applicants to visit the city's online portal to not only apply for and obtain their license and permits, but to follow the process. So as things are updated, I know Director Fontaine will talk about this, as things are updated, inspections and whatnot, if owners register along with their contractors, particularly in the building side of things, they can follow kind of where things are at. What's great is city staff can also. So there's oftentimes, hey, business division is your guide. I will hear Corey, because his office is across the hall from me. Sorry, Corey, wave your hand. I will hear Corey say, let me hop into the EP&L and see if I can get any updates for you, because he can do it so fast, he's so used to it. So not only just turning their own registration that we do in our offices, but that are done citywide, which is really an excellent feature. So one thing to note, business development staff chose to keep the initial business registration permit a paper process. And this was a little bit of trial and error when we first went to the online piece. We felt that we were losing the personal touch and connectivity with businesses who hadn't worked with us prior to signing a lease and opening. So having that paper product as the first touch really helps us connect and get to know that business owner. And then we guide them step by step through the renewal. So we're in renewal season right now. When renewals went out, before renewals went out, everyone got an email. If it was for a liquor license, it was from Megan Cherry. If it was for business registration, it was from Corey. But they all come from the system, and they get guides. Here's how to do this step by step. Here's when your renewal email will be coming to your inbox. So make sure you watch for this. This isn't spam. Watch for this. And they do follow-ups. And we've seen a tremendous increase in people who are just very capable of doing it on their own. They're like, oh yeah, I remember this. This was easy. This is great. Simple. And a number of people still like to come in. A number of people still like to call us. We'll all take the time. And this is not just business development division. This is where that other duties as assigned CMO for business development comes into play. Everyone helps with those phone calls. And we actually are already exploring for next year doing like some office hours, kind of like a college professor would do, potentially with the library, where you can just come in and know that there'll be city staff there to help you through it. That was Corey's great idea, so I will give him credit for that. And then when the application is complete, whether you're new or renewing, if the application's complete, everything's there, the turnaround time for business registrations, in most cases, is same day, Monday through Friday. So if you have everything in complete, that is turned around, in most instances, within one day. Outside of that, it could be 2 to 3 days if you're going over the weekend. So if it came in late on a Friday or there was a holiday, but in most instances, that's one day. And then this is a slew of other licenses that are handled through the CMO department in some way, shape, or form, either through the building development division or the city clerk's office. So what I want to point out here, there's a couple that may take longer than that, 1 or 2 days, just automatically. Liquor licensing, massage, and vendors, those licenses all require background checks of some form. Liquor licensing, massage also require fingerprinting, massage only if you're not licensed by the state. So those do take 4 to 8 weeks for the liquor or massage because it is a background. Some are short as 2 weeks. If you give us everything and there's not a huge lineup, if you get it in early, we can get that through a lot faster. But that background check is the part that could catch you up somewhere along the way. On average, it is 4 weeks, but we do like to give that cushion just because we know sometimes they do take longer. And that is all I have for right now. I don't know if we want to do questions at the end, Gita, or we...
It's up to you. Do you want to do questions now related to this? Do you want to
If we
let
could
Joel?
maybe just keep going, just because there's a
Yeah.
lot of overlap.
Sure, so let's let Joel do his
I will turn it over
presentation
to
and then
Director
I'll take
Fontaine.
questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, great presentation.
Okay. So community development, the development and business technical assistance. So as Erin mentioned, it's really an interdepartmental effort all the time. And so depending on where businesses come into the system, they will need to work across departments necessarily to accomplish their goals. And so we make sure that we integrate seamlessly to enable folks to do that. Community development as a department does many things. Today's presentation will focus on development assistance, but the department also provides commission support and advisement, plan review, inspections and enforcement, policy development and analysis, and program administration, of course. Includes the elevator program for the city, which is in cooperation with the state fire marshal and, of course, Chief Shoggy. A fire alarm coordinator, we serve that role as well as the Fire Prevention Bureau. We also have the housing rental registration program for rental properties, as well as the housing program itself, as we know through the Housing Commission. The organizational chart for the Department of Community Development includes 2 divisions, the Planning Division and the Building Division. And within those divisions, we have what are called work units. So there are 5 of them. In the planning side, we have current planning, which involves a Planning Design Commission and ZBA. And we also have another unit that's charged with design review, housing program, historic preservation in the Planning Division. In the Building Division, we have 3 units. So you start up generally with your customer service front counter unit, move to the plan review unit, and then on to inspections. So that when you apply, front desk, plan review reviews plans, those plans are approved, fee out, then you move to inspections as you're actually doing construction. Inspectors also provide code enforcement services, which are unrelated to any construction project, but nonetheless equally important to the community. Getting to yes and assisting businesses, this is critical, and Erin had touched on this as well throughout her presentation, but community development looks at each customer as a customer who their project is their baby, right? It's their baby, it's the project that they're doing. And so we take that consideration very seriously and provide empathy throughout the project so that they understand that we know that this is important to them. This is what we strive to do each time. We have businesses come to our community service desk or call us, and we do provide also email technical assistance as well. The technical assistance to applicants, focuses on, of course, land use and building regulations, as the department is charged with administering those. And so what the initial question is, okay, what type of business are you and where are you looking to locate? Now, sometimes they've come through business development, have a location already set up, and so it's kind of pre-screened. Other times they're just coming directly to us, right? So then we may say, hey, site selection, you can benefit from talking to business development because they have some sites that you might be interested in. And they're a lot of times kicking the tires. People come to us at various degrees of readiness to actually do permitting. Sometimes they're just saying, hey, I have a concept I want to vet. Is this, something that the city allows? Other times they're like, yeah, I have a business plan, I have a lease, which is one of the things we advocate that folks hang on until you've talked to us and gone through what's called a letter of intent process, which I will talk about momentarily. Through our business assistants, we coordinate an interdepartmental review team as needed to guide applicants and work through the challenges of whatever the site may pose or whatever the tenant space may be. So we'll ask ad hoc questions, and we'll listen to their ad hoc questions about what are you trying to do, so that we understand where they're coming from and what their end goals are for their business and what their concerns are. Those meetings can be with anyone in their team, from just a business owner or a land developer to an attorney, to their architect, to their engineers, anybody that they choose to bring. We typically have these once a week. We have essentially Thursday mornings scheduled for this type of interaction, and you come to us from anywhere from concept to full site plan, anywhere you are in your process. For larger projects, we do hold through the building division pre-construction meetings. So if you're going to have a large project, subdivision, or major multifamily building, we want to make sure that this is going to work out properly, everything from deliveries and trucking and parking and things like that. So we do have those pre-construction meetings, and also to provide them some guidance about what we're going to be expecting along the way. Keep in mind, when construction's underway, it is up to those doing the construction to call us to come out for inspections. We are not construction managers. A lot of times people confuse that. So we're waiting for them to say, hey, I'm at a stage that I'm ready for you to come to do an inspection. When that is up to their construction schedule. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's not. But we are responding to folks' requests for inspections as quickly as we can. And so those just come up at any time, any day, and they're like, hey, we're ready, come get out here real quick. Often they're running up against deadlines, and we're trying our best to get out there not only quickly, but also help them get through and troubleshoot. Well, okay, this is great. We need to do this, this, and this. And how do we get to yes in terms of what's the end goal? Trying to open up. So what can we do to issue perhaps a conditional occupancy, or sometimes referred to a temporary occupancy certificate. That can get you open while you finish up the remaining non-life safety matters. So performing the inspections to ensure life safety for the public is key. Even if it's an existing tenant space, we, through our fire prevention program, inspect periodically all of the commercial spaces in the community. So when a business changes over, this is an opportunity to do just that. So we'll go in and say, okay, these are the life safety things that you need to address. It's a very finite scope of work, but a very important one. And so then those types of things can be articulated to the potential tenant ahead of time, before leases are signed or before things are signed, so they can negotiate with their landlord who's going to do it. Are you going to do it, or am I going to be responsible for it? Depends on their deal. It's a private matter. And then throughout the permit approval process, there's permit assistance and troubleshooting. And why I say troubleshooting is because there's any number of times where folks think they say, hey, I want to do this, and then they have a change midway. So a permit may be already have issued or in the process, and we get a revision. And we're like, oh, this is different than what you just gave us. Well, this might change this or that. And so that's what we mean by troubleshooting. So we work with folks together and say, okay, we could accommodate this, or there might be an alternative method, a means that you're looking to use to achieve the same thing as the code allows, although it's not exactly what the code allows. These take some time to consider and to evaluate as carefully as we can with the speed with which is needed to keep things moving in terms of the construction, timelines, etc. Letter of intent to occupy. Okay. So these are submitted to community development online through the what's called the EP&L portal, or submission of a hard copy. Now, we are almost completely digital at this point, which is really quite a significant achievement. Do you remember the notion in the 90s, paperless office? Well, we're not quite there yet still, folks, but we are really close in terms of our submissions, which, hidden benefits of that is the amount of paper that used to be generated in terms of copies that were required and plan sets. It's thousands of dollars sometimes for the larger projects, and it's just a lot of paper and storage and where is everything to keep track of physically. Now we have it electronically, and these things can be emailed around or viewed through EP&L by multiple staff members without extra copies, without emailing, which is just beautiful, because our email servers are, at their capacity almost always because of the work we do. And I know Christy has been great at accommodating that through the IT division. And so planning staff, looks at a letter of intent to occupy. And so what are we saying here? What is this about? It's to prevent folks from essentially making a mistake on a tenant space. Is this an allowed use is critical. And so somebody says, I have an idea, I want to locate here, can I do it? That's one of the first things that we have to look at. Okay, is this allowed in that location? So we strongly recommend that businesses submit LOIs prior to leasing to ensure that the proposed use is allowed and whether any relief will be needed to use the selected location. So sometimes the uses are allowed, but they have a board of commission process that's needed. Okay, so that's going to be on a different time track than somebody who doesn't have that. And so we explain that and what would be required. Now, everyone should know that in trying to get to yes and trying to get folks into their places quickly and efficiently, we will say, if you have building permit considerations that you need to have, while we're going through a discretionary land use process, whether it's some board or commission and council possibly, you could do them concurrently. Submit your building permits. Let's get started on that. And at the same time, go through that process. Now, in those cases, somebody says, well, but I don't know if I'm going to be approved. Staff provides insights and just kind of framework for folks to understand that what the zoning code allows and doesn't allow, and how that consideration fits into the overall goals of what the community is. This is important in gauging whether or not that's a really high level concern. Of course, you can't predict the outcome of a board or commission or council decision. In that case, those building permit applications, all they're responsible is for the plan review fees. They don't have to pay for the permits. Let's just say it just doesn't happen. Okay, so it's just the plan review fees. That's a very relatively minor part of what the costs are. So folks are encouraged to take that risk in certain situations because, hey, if you're really serious about your time to build, you might want to consider doing that. Again, you can't assure the outcome of board or commission. However, we do see this as an effective tool for many, and depending on their timelines and construction, if they choose to take that risk or not. So staff conducting life safety inspections of tenant spaces. So part of the letter of intent to occupy is the analysis of, okay, is this allowed here? Are there any conditional kind of use permits or other types of board or commission things that we need to do? But also we say, hey, schedule a life safety inspection. Our inspectors go around, as I said earlier, to all these spaces periodically to look at life safety and to ensure that you do so now as tenant changeover. So if there's anything that comes up, you know ahead of time. And then again, the negotiation between landlord and tenant on what needs to be changed, if anything. And so those are the key things for the letter of intent to occupy, okay? Certificate of occupancy is at the opposite end of the situation. So you start out with a letter of intent to occupy, and then you go to, you say, well, a lot of things happen in between, and then you get your certificate of occupancy. Here, this ensures that all the applicable codes are met, okay? It's in the most broad sense. It's not just building code, it's zoning, it's all the things. Have you paid for whatever fee that there might be, etc. Ensures that the safety of the tenant space as well as the general public, provides a record of occupancy classification changes. So there are things that are called occupancy changes that are different than the layperson might consider an occupancy change that involve the building code. Some things that if you change from one use to another, it doesn't trigger building code things, other things do. So give an example. If you have a space that you're changing from, let's say, retail to a place of assembly, there are different rules and there are new requirements that you're going to have to fit out that space to accommodate those rules for that use. This record also is just good to know for just record keeping purposes of who's in there, what was done. And like I said earlier, temporary or conditional certificate of occupancy, they're used to facilitate business opening where non-life safety items remain. That's key. So we're always wanting to have the life safety aspect taken care of before we're opening, but there are any number of other things that can kind of trail along and catch up. That in itself becomes a lot of work for staff to keep up with, but it provides the necessary relief valve to get folks going, because frequently, as we all know, you're starting up a new business and such, just a new location, there's a lot going on, and it is hard to do. And so you have to think of many things outside of anything that the city has to permit and deal with. And so that help is very useful to people. They do appreciate it because it gives them a little more time, but didn't cost them an opening, which is really key. Again, being empathetic with the plight of the business owner or that new tenant. Hey, I really got to get open. They got to make a living, right? And so we appreciate that. We do respect that and understand that. So making the tenant space your own. Well, this is what it's all about, right? You got a new space and everyone's excited, and so what are we going to do with it, right? You know, and so all work must be designed and constructed in accordance with the International Code Council's 2018 codes, as amended by the City of Highland Park. Although the design professionals will advise regarding code construction and permits, city staff offer informal technical assistance meetings. As I said earlier, folks, listen, if you're having trouble, we can get together with your design professional. There's any number of times that the architect will call, hey, I need some help here. I'm trying to figure this out. Would this be okay? And so we get those calls as well, and plan review unit responds to them as well. And that's outside of the plan review process. So they're reviewing plans, but then they also get calls where people are trying to respond to either revisions or their first submittal. They're trying to know, if I do this, would this be what you were looking for? And so we have, you know, our general number, 0808, as give a call, and we can set up to schedule a meeting to meet with folks from the building division to talk about those building and construction related items. Of course, the building permit apps are submitted through the city's website, the new portal. Okay, exterior design changes. Let's talk about building facades. So all exterior design changes require design review approval. Now, just to step back a bit, in 2015, we reorganized boards and commissions, and we combined the Plan Commission with the Design Commission to make it the Plan and Design Commission. This was an effort to streamline the development considerations coming before the city, so that you could go to one board and commission to hear and to essentially decide upon a project, as opposed to two, like it used to be. So that was one major improvement in terms of streamlining from a business or development point of view. Okay, and when I'm speaking about these things, I'm speaking in general. It's not just business, it's also development, new buildings for developers and such. What also happened was that the council, you know, directed staff, and through changes to ordinances and others, we handle more of the design review administratively than we had in the past, okay? And so there are triggers for when things need to go to the commission, but increasing number of things are handled administratively. Again, to streamline and to move the process forward more efficiently. Design standards that are applied are intended to ensure high quality and aesthetically pleasing environment throughout commercial districts in Highland Park. City's design review includes exterior facade changes, doorways, windows, lighting, awnings, landscaping, off-street parking design for all commercial buildings. Depending on the type and the extent of the proposed changes, business may need approval by the commission before obtaining a building permit, as I said, or for those that don't require the commission, be done administratively. Our staff, our team of staff that review these matters in the planning division, Rati Akash, she's an architect. She is the head person assigned to this type of review, called design review. She does a great job, and she's just started with the city about 2 years ago. So all external changes are evaluated within the context of the area and the city's design review code, which is chapter 176, and where applicable, the downtown development code, chapter 150, 2300. There is a specific code within our zoning code, sections within our zoning code regarding downtown development and design. And so that is reviewed for those areas that pertains to. council may recall, there's various streets that are designated different levels of design review, pedestrian, vehicular use, etc. And various requirements are there. We also have downtown design review guidelines that were put together in 2018-19 that kind of provide folks a visual guide of this is what we're talking about. This is the type of stuff we're looking for. And of course, we meet with applicants about what is desired and what the commission would be looking for. And then also know that when we're doing administrative design review, it's a bit of a negotiation. You know, we're like, okay, we need this screen. Well, is that, okay, here's what I'm proposing. Is that sufficient? Or can you do it this way? And so there are various things that go on as part of a review process that folks don't see through that administrative process. And then if it does have to go to the Plan and Design Commission, staff would write a report and present that to the Plan and Design Commission. We do quickly make a decision on, are you going to the commission or not? So just a thumbnail sketches. If it's a new building, it has to go to the commission. You know, if it's parking lots that are new, that are larger than 10,000 square feet, it has to go to the commission. So there's certain things that just have to go to the commission, and anything that requires a variance has to go to the commission. So the staff is not just willy-nilly, you know, granting variances without a public process or anything like that. We are looking at design within the four corners of what the code requires. Okay, exterior design changes, signs. It's an essential part of any business, signs, right? City sign code is intended to ensure business needs are met in a way that contributes positively to the character and aesthetic quality of the community. You got new signs require a permit. Reusing legal pre-existing signs does not require a permit so long as there's no change to physical signage, structural or electrical components, etc. So if you change your name of your business, it's okay, you can do that. We've had that happen before, rebranding. So Lucky's became Casey's and this place became that. And so you can do that. If more flexibility than is allowed by the code is needed, business can apply for a variation, in some cases a sign package, depending on the building that they're in. Now I'll tell you that businesses don't like to do that. That's just something that is seen as a hurdle and a difficult at times for them to go through, but we do have a number of variances that have been granted by the council and a certain subset by the Plan and Design Commission. Bless you. So depending on how large a buildings they are. And then of course some multi-tenant commercial buildings already have approved sign packages that essentially that's the package for that property. And if they want to make changes to it, that can be amended as well. Tax permit. Okay, first response. Okay, depending on the complexity, there's lots of things that go into the answer to this question. Depends on a complex set of interrelated items. Not all within the city's control, including but not limited to application completeness. That's a really big one. Scope of construction being considered. Requests for alternative methods and means. Number of applications just under review. Just the volume of work at any given time. Peak season, a lot more than winter. Responsiveness of applicant to revisions. And just overall staffing. The next slide provides a target number of business days for various plan review comments, okay? So assuming an accurate and complete application with no additional considerations, commission considerations, or any revisions, you've got 1 to 2 days for small things. They're referred to as over the counter. Sometimes they're not literally over the counter. It's 1 to 2 days, so same day or a couple of days, depending. 5 to 7 days for smaller projects and certain types of things, fences and driveways, furnaces, ACs, walkways. 10 to 12 business days, you got your small sheds, small structures, generators, signs, sprinklers, and fire alarm system changes. 15 to 17 days are additions, remodels, swimming pools, drainage and grading projects, which, by the way, a lot of things trigger drainage and grading in this community because we're so flat and we have so many water problems. They're some of the most difficult things to deal with in terms of our permitting process, as Ron and his team also help community development through those for commercial uses. Community development does the residential, and sometimes we pull on Ron, but a lot of times outside consultants to deal with residential drainage and grading projects. Council may know or may recall, we do have what's called the infill development ordinance that requires that the neighbors next to a project be notified. This does not speed things up. That's just a preview. So that's a tall order. You know, it's not like, well, you got it right and you just do what you want and you don't have to tell anyone. No, you tell the neighbors, and the neighbors have lots to say sometimes. Some of our most protracted, most intense customer engagements have to do with that process. And what we're doing there is we're trying to understand from the neighbors what's going on and balance their rights with that of the property owner trying to do something, because they both have rights. And we try to get to the best solution for all involved in accordance with the code. Larger projects tend to need revisions. I mean, it's just common. You know, the first set through from your design professional is going to have revisions. And even some of the smaller projects, depending. Ironically, the larger, more complex projects at times can be put together with fewer missing parts than the smaller ones, believe it or not. Smaller projects have smaller budgets, have less focus of the professionals involved in it a lot of times. And sometimes folks try to do things themselves, and this becomes more challenging. So our customer base is varied. You have very experienced, knowledgeable people who've done work in the Highland Park area and know what to do, and you have folks who are kind of first time through. And some are general contractors who've done things here, others are not. Everything from our codes regarding general contractor licensing to other types of things like rental registration and other things are sometimes well-known and other times not known by the customer. And so a lot of education has to go into our customer relationship management with certain applicants. We have an ongoing commitment to improvement, and we listen to feedback, both positive and negative, and try to make changes where we can. We have, through the implementation of the online portal, received a number of comments, and what we've tried to do is further enhance and make a more robust kind of how-to system. We also have spent time in the last year creating the guides for internal training purposes also, so that staff can be more proficient. Because as staff turnover, training is constantly a requirement. And so to keep up on these things, staff need training, but then also need to be able to articulate to our customers what needs to be done. And so with that, I'd like to say, you know, grass is greener where you water it. The city is committed to always working towards improvements in our processes, experience, and opportunities and relationships. It's a relationship. Like I said at the outset, and like Erin has said, you know, this, whatever someone's trying to do, it's their baby. It's what they're doing. It's their singular focus. We have lots of things going on, but how do we deliver to that person's singular focus in the context of that demanding environment? Thank you for hearing us out this evening, and we'll welcome any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you. I see many hands up, and I'll give you a couple of comments and then call on everybody else. Erin and Joel and Corey as well. Thank you for all that you've put into this presentation. I think it goes without saying that every single member of this city council is pro-business, wants to see businesses succeed, and wants to know how our city is doing everything it can to help businesses either stay here in business and succeed or come here and have a successful new business. But I know, you know, when you have the 5 balls that represent our priorities, business and economic development are one of the top 5 priorities that we really focus on. I'll just share with you, I spoke with 3 new businesses over the weekend, and without any prompting on my part, they all just said, thank you so much. Please let the city staff know how easy they have been to work with, how far above and beyond they've gone. They mentioned that they've worked in other municipalities and that they view Highland Park as the gold standard. So I just want you to have that feedback. And again, that was completely unprompted by me. And they just appreciated the accessibility, they appreciated your outreach and the ease with working through whatever challenges might be coming their way. They felt very heard and respected and supported, so thank you. I know Amanda's hiding back there, and I just want to say also, heads up, thank you so much for the incredible communication that you've been doing. What an uptick in marketing and communications. And again, when I talk to my peer mayors and we compare notes on how we're communicating, they're blown away with how much Highland Park is doing they're like, wait, you do that on a weekly basis? And I'm like, oh yeah, a couple times a week sometimes you'll hear from us. So they couldn't believe, and I just wanted to share how much people really enjoy, in particular the weekender. But I think the business emails also are just fantastic in terms of highlighting what's going on in the community. Erin, I had one question for you. You had that great data about the large events that we're having and how many people are coming from out of town versus in town, which is wonderful. I know we kind of have that for two purposes. One, for vibrancy within our community and community building, but also to introduce outsiders to our wonderful community. Is there any way to track or to find out how many of those folks who came to those events touched a business in town, like went to a restaurant or bought something? Or is that just like way too far even for Pacer AI?
I don't know if we can do individual people, but we can track where people are coming in general before and after. So I don't know, I'm gonna look at Corey, which is why I asked him to come, because Corey and Megan Cherry, if you know Megan Cherry, our programs administrative specialists, they are like our mavens for Placer AI right now. They took it all in like sponges and are teaching us all. So Corey, can we drill down specifically on individual people coming and going, or more it's just we can see it in general?
And I'll just, obviously my question is, great to have parties for people and to bring them into town, but are they then lingering? Are they shopping? Is our timing correct in terms of when and what we're having in terms of bringing in stimulus for our local businesses?
Right, so I think what is so interesting and valuable about Placer is it balances the anonymity of the visitor, but also gives you enough data to actually make concrete business decisions or decisions with how you do your events. So I think a great example was when I was analyzing the 2nd Street event, you can actually see the pattern of the people who attended those events. They ended up stopping for dinner or a snack in between, and then they went to Stews and Brews. Things like that from a visitor's journey perspective. You're not able to track one visitor, but you can see the patterns
And that's what
of
I think
these
we're looking for. Right.
visitors who do come.
Right, okay, great. Because I'll just share, I was taking a phone call sitting in my car in Central, and I saw somebody come up to Indus, and it was before you were open, and you could tell they had come, they wanted to come in, and I was like, they'll be here soon. Like, it just was, so I just kind of want to know, like, if part of our goal is to have these events, to introduce people from out of town to our great community, not just we're fabulous people, but also here are stores, here are other restaurants and places that you can visit. Yes, Gita?
Thanks, Mayor. And I guess I would say it's twofold. So one is, the events have really put Highland Park on a map as a place to come to enjoy food, dining, entertainment. And we've seen it definitely in the Ravinia district. Food Truck Thursday, since we've done it for several years. I mean, there are brokers now selling houses because of Food Truck Thursdays that we're doing. So there's that. There's also, though, where we may not be able to track it analytically, but what we do believe is that when people are coming from events, we are exposing them to the downtown district. So they may not shop at that moment in time, but I know certainly, like with my friends, they're like, wow, you've got this store and that store, and then they want to definitely come back. So there's that, but we can definitely, Corey can pull what we can provide from Placer AI, and that's going to be sent to the council regularly as part of the business development reports.
Great. And then I was delighted also to see that we're kind of revisiting our business development strategic plan in 2025. I know that's been a continuous thing that Carolyn has been working on. How long have we been doing this now? 6 years, 8 years, something like that. So appreciate that we're continuing to retool that. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to add just one last thing on events. Diane, our marketing coordinator, will be at our next committee of the whole with a presentation on events, like in planning for next year.
Excellent.
So she'll have some more insight on this data.
Terrific. Okay. Annette, you were first, and then Tony.
Oh, okay. Well, I will apologize. These are not in order because some were from the packet and then some were from your presentation, which, by the way, both of you I thought was absolutely excellent.
Yeah.
So I really want to thank you. It's extremely comprehensive. So a couple of things. First of all, I loved what you said about businesses joining together because Wayfair and Danucci's are offering different things so that if someone goes to the movies, they get a discount for a drink, or if they go to Danucci's for dinner, they offer a lower rate ticket. So, I mean, I thought that was really wonderful because clearly they could either put together by the city or they did that on their own, and I was really happy to hear that that went that way. I'm wondering, so you gave us wonderful numbers to pick up on the mayor's point about the big events that we had, but I didn't see any for Port Clinton, and I don't know if that's, I don't know how that figures in with the art fair. I know that the city doesn't do that, it's done privately, but I would really like, so we can judge our spaces and who's coming, I'd like to also see, and are we doing the AI tracking for the art fair? So it would be very nice to also bring in that information, and I don't know if you have it.
I don't have it here today,
Right.
but Port Clinton concerts, we just know that those
Friday
sampling ones that we did
Right.
this year, we had
Right.
about 1,200 people at those.
At each one,
Or
or total?
Throughout the series, those 10 concerts.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it would just, for next year's presentation or whenever you do it, I'd really like to see those Port Clinton numbers too. I know these are the larger events, but knowing how many we can hold at Port Clinton, I think it's very relevant to match the two of them together. And I was gonna say, in the materials, there was no mention of the lot, but I'm so grateful because you have all the answers right there. So that was great. Roger, this is different. There was a question in the packet I had about the tax rebates, and it was written that if a business wanted to apply for that, it was a $5,000 fee to get to know if there's a tax rebate. So my question was,
Not a
is that a
fee,
typo?
not a $5,000
Permit
fee.
deposit?
Okay.
So
Yes.
my question is, was that number correct or not? Because my question had been to staff whether that was correct, because I thought your materials were wonderfully easy to follow. I knew how much I would be spending for this permit or that permit, but that one seemed way out of line. And considering that's something that the council looks at, I'd really like an answer to that question.
Do we,
you
either
wanna address
now
it?
or
Yeah.
at another meeting, we can talk about how the sales tax rebate program works, if that's the question.
And if
Yeah,
you'd
so
rather
thank you.
do
So
another,
we
that's
spoke,
fine.
so Councilmember Littler and I spoke this morning about this as well. So we will make sure to clarify in the application what exactly that fee is for. So specifically for the sales tax rebates, there is a lot of analysis and work that goes into analyzing.
Whether they-
So really, so if someone comes through and let's say they're a small business, we know they're not gonna qualify based on their sales tax. We're not even gonna ask them to apply. It's
Right.
not gonna be relevant for them. But if we get, for example, a car dealership or grocery store that would be applicable, there is a $5,000 non-refundable deposit that's made. It's part of the legal work and the analysis that's done. That's what it's for. So we're gonna specify how exactly that's being used.
And that's fine, I just wanted to be sure, number one, it wasn't a mistake, and if you explain what that's used for,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense.
And that's consistent with other things that we do, with discretionary approvals for the boards and commissions.
Great.
Deposits for PUDs and other.
Okay,
And you do have to generate over $1 million to
Yeah.
qualify for that.
actually, I
So-
think it was more than $1 million, but no, maybe you're right.
It depends on.
Okay, you gave a wonderful number about the 55 businesses that have moved in. How many have moved out in this year?
We do not track who's moved out. In general, that's a practice, and this is where I came from, this is my background. Because we're looking more at how are we reutilizing that space, how fast are we finding someone else to come in, how tight are we keeping that occupancy number? Because businesses don't close for one reason. Businesses close for many reasons across, great reasons of, hey, we've been in business 60 years and now we want to retire, and enjoy life together. To maybe I didn't market myself well, maybe I wasn't a good financial planner, maybe I didn't have a good product, and sometimes people just fail because it just doesn't work. So the reasons we don't track that number, I think it's also hard because you don't have to tell us that you're closing. You can just close. But we are cognizant of when we think someone might be in trouble, and that's part of, or getting closer to closing. It's relationships that we have and just awareness that we have, as we kind of talked about in those pieces. There's a boutique that may be closing at the end of the year. They're relocating, and several months ago there was an announcement about the same boutique opening at location in a different part of the region. And Carolyn Hirsch reached out to the broker and said, hey, how is this affecting Highland Park? And they said, oh, don't worry about it. We're in the process of renegotiating their lease right now. And then we found out, just recently that no, they decided to move out. Even though Carolyn made direct contact with the broker and with the business owners, sometimes they just keep that close and for their own edification. You know, it's just like how some people only want to be in the Ravinia Business District because maybe they're local and they can walk there and, you know, they can be there, their kids can come after school. There's so many different moving parts for why people choose to come and go, that it'd be hard for us to track that with any good reason of this is why they've left.
I would just like to throw it out there, and then I just have one last thing, and it's really a comment. But I would like to throw it out there that that's a wonderful answer, but I do think it might be a creative usage of some of the things that we have now, or that we're able to analyze data to try and understand that better. In the same way as people do exit, you know, interviews and everything like that, I think it would be helpful to the city going forward, because in the same way as you want to fill that space, you want to fill it quickly, it's nice to know what happened and who, not is to blame, but why did this happen? That's all. So I just think it would be helpful. The last thing I just wanted to say is, are these new materials? Because they're beautiful, and I know that BDAG did a lot of the writing and the working for some of the materials in terms of marketing, but your having all of your profiles, your questions and everything in one place, is this new, or did you always have this just all over the place?
So in terms of the guide, so I actually have this is the existing guide, which you can't find anymore because.
No, that's the one I have.
Okay, so
that
this
we
is,
worked on with BDAG.
and it's in its real format. It's like beautiful in a nice printed format. Corey printed this off. So when our current BDAG and staff over the last year and a half have really worked hard. Like I went to several BDAG meetings where it was, do we start making these specific to restaurants, specific to boutiques, specific to service businesses? Lots of debate, lots of good conversation, and then lots of understanding on our processes are changing because we're not paper format anymore. We worked hand in hand with community development on this project as well. So the content that you see in the draft that's attached, that's really for like the written word piece, and then that'll be populated with, you know, more design elements, maps, colored pictures, etc., that are new and vibrant. So it is something that's existed. This is just kind of a rebrand of it. Similar to our strategic plan for economic development, right? This is no good if we just do it once and leave it on a shelf. We have to keep coming back to it. And so,
Nothing that we presented is new, it's just, well, we're always regularly updating and evaluating.
Okay, it's great, great job.
And 93.1% occupancy is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a
Thank
very
you.
good thing. Tony, you're next, and then Andres.
Mayor, before you move on, I'm not going to ask my questions now. I just want to point out that we have, I don't know what time you're planning to
Have dinner?
have
3
dinner,
minutes?
but I think everybody at the table would like to ask questions, so I'm
You
hoping
bet.
you can time it.
We can totally go till 7 o'clock, right?
I hope that's enough time.
Well, everybody, use your time wisely. Okay,
This will
Tony
be
and
short.
then Andres, and
We'll go
Yumi,
short
you want to
answers.
go next?
First of all,
Marissa?
I want to not really thank you for your presentation, but it's the first presentation on these subjects that has been enthusiastic and demonstrates your main goal of being flexible and figuring out more how to help development and businesses without the desire to be an enforcement agency. I mean, there is enforcement within your organization, but it is clearly not part of your principal mission. It's incidental, and I much more appreciate that approach. It reflects the policy that the council has wanted to take with business and development. And also has not been, in my opinion, to the detriment of residents. Because as much as we want to develop, our main purpose of development is develop in a way that is valuable to people who live here principally, and then secondarily to attract others to come here. And I think what I'm hearing tonight is meeting that in a way that we really haven't before. There are going to continue to be complaints of difficulties here and there and people who are dissatisfied with certain things, but the general thrust of what I'm hearing tonight reflects the policy that the council has set. I have a few minor questions, suggestions. There are projects which have to come before more than one commission. Sometimes the order within which a project goes to different commissions is important because it may undermine one commission's authority or impact or another. I'm speaking particularly to commissions I've had experiences with. It's important to go to the Plan and Design Commission last. They ultimately have a direct recommending opportunity to the City Council. So if you're going to go to other commissions like Historic Preservation or Housing, very important to do that before you go to the Plan Commission so that an applicant doesn't go to the Housing Commission or to the Historic Preservation Commission and say, our plan overall has been approved. So the underlying message is, we don't really care what you think. And we want people to care what those commissions think. What those commissions have to say and their impact on an application tends to make those applications better for the community. So I think it's important that when we don't have dual applications, and we rarely have dual applications, that we be mindful of which commissions handle an application first. Secondly, again, with respect to commissions, generally staff has been, I think, since I've been around, asked not to weigh in personally on how they feel about a particular application or some element of an application. And I agree with that approach generally. But there are times when I think commissions do want to know what you guys think because you're professionals. And I don't think we have a policy either way that prohibits or encourages that, but I would like the policy to be that if asked, a staff member who is making a presentation does have something to say on behalf of staff about the application or about particular elements of the application. I think sometimes that's helpful. And then picking up lastly on something that was asked of you, I know you can't identify necessarily with any accuracy why businesses leave, but it would be interesting to know how long different classes of businesses within that class, what their longevity is in the community. What are our older restaurants? How long does a restaurant tend to last in Highland Park? Do they last longer in Highland Park if they're on Central, on St. John's, on 2nd Street, on 1st Street? I think those kinds of things we can find out with some accuracy. What sized businesses? We don't get a lot of national businesses in Highland Park for a lot of reasons that have been discussed over the years that I've been here. But we do have different kinds of businesses in Highland Park, some of which have been here for decades, and others seem to come and go rather rapidly. Can we quantify what that is? And is there anything we can do to encourage businesses of a class that don't tend to last as long? How can we help that not occur to add to the variety of businesses that we have in Highland Park? So those are the things that I would like to take a look at.
I think that's certainly a worthwhile project, and I think I would add to it, looking at it regionally and what our neighbors are saying.
Yeah.
And what the marketplace is, and especially restaurants. I wouldn't count any restaurant until they get past 3 years, because that's the bellwether for a restaurant. But after that, looking forward on the restaurant space and other spaces, certainly something we can maybe potentially add to major projects to start. But I think that's gonna be a lengthy process.
Great, thank you. Andres?
Yeah, just quick highlights that really stood out for me. Your 5 focus areas that have been your guiding light were fantastic, and
Thank you.
it was nice seeing get to yes mindset. That's a winner. I love the same day business registration goal that you've given yourselves. I love the non-resident numbers. Was really impressive, and I think that meeting the dual goal, our residents and not residents. The lit up downtown is awesome. Everybody comments how beautiful.
Literally they do.
And I like that it's permanent, because it's just part of our nature now, rather than a special occasion.
Right, it's just warmth always.
Exactly.
It's great.
I love the checklist. That's really, I can just see an applicant going, okay, and that's, they have a roadmap. I love the language of proactive customer service. And Joel, you said empathy. I love that.
You really need to have that. Your businesses, everything at the
Empathy and then you went on to say, this is their life. This is important. That's all they know. And I just love that mindset. And I can tell you, liaison to several of these partners that you referred to, they're much more activated now.
Mm-hmm.
They're very proactive. They lean forward. This is a swing thing. So those are all highlights. I'm going to add to my colleagues here. I think we cannot overlook why people leave or visit. You have to look at the exits, and the attrition. You can't neglect attrition. And even though it's a different dynamic, and you explained that very well, that dynamic is really important. And I love the cuts that you're asking for. We need to understand a whole bunch of things about what works and doesn't work, especially as we think strategic planning. It will affect with kind of what things that we may or may not do to attract more of this, less of that, because we have the data that shows one way or the other. You know, on the retail vacancies, I love the fact that we're in the 90 plus. You know, we've said this before, though, several of us. I still would like to see the numbers by business district. Because it's one thing to have the overall thing, but, you know, if some business districts are less, worse or more better than others, I think we have to get to that granularity. I would recommend and suggest that we have greater diversity in our events, meaning ethnic, racial, culturally, generational. It tends to kind of gravitate to a mainstream kind of demographic that I think we need to sort of break that up a little bit and add more. I had a question for you about how well is the online flow working? I like the description, Joel, but I'm just curious, is it a visual experience that they can kind of, you know, some online systems you can say, oh, I'm here, and like the UPS thing, right? It's here, 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 here.
Mm-hmm.
Are we that sophisticated yet, or?
I don't have any pictures of that.
Yeah, it is a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
It does have a visual element to it. We also have automatic emails at critical times when you're doing things. I will say that we have recently, per feedback, provided some more guidance in certain areas. So that's coming up as what I would say, we've had everything, all of the apps are now live, right? And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk with folks who've gone through the system, just offline, not with the permit live, to get more feedback about, so what was we had the Resident Academy the other night, great interactions. There were several people there that are interested in this, and we're gonna call upon them. Come on in, let's just sit down, let's just go through, what do you see here that is hard for you? You know, we know when you're too close to something, you need to have that separation and just ask.
Fantastic.
So that's the kind of thing that we're doing. We also talked with the different group, general contractors, frequent flyers. You know, folks new to the system, you know, they don't know necessarily that we even have a general contractor's license. So we're looking at folks who have worked with us over and over again, and they can probably provide better insights into it from what they saw before and now. So that's our 2025.
And I love that empathy in action, right? Because you're not going to the users themselves and saying, what's your experience, as opposed to defending, well, this is supposed to work, but the user's not.
No, we want to hear it from their point of view, because there are things that you find like, oh, yeah, that is kind of tricky.
A couple more things quickly. Nice metrics on the time to permit, but
That's our targets, yeah.
those are your targets.
Correct.
Is it too soon to say how you're doing against the targets?
What I can tell you is we report back on that yearly. We're about 75% of the time. It really depends on a couple of things overarching. Staffing, and when staff chooses to turn over. We had some unfortunate turnovers right in the middle of building season that just made things very hard. Other things that influence it is just the timing of our applications. So believe it or not, some years are pointy and some years are more of a plateau, and that just alone can make such a difference. What we try to do is for folks that we know that have projects that are gonna have a number of complicated things, we basically lobby them. Can you get your permits in during the winter? Can you do this now? This is the time. Instead of coming to us April and saying, you know, I wish I was in the ground already. You know, that really,
Yeah.
And may I add just a
Yeah,
little
sure.
more from our permit side of things at CMO? I'll take liquor licenses for an example. Renewals are happening. All liquor licensees received emails from Ashley and Megan. This is coming, these are the things you need to have. Make sure you update your permits, make sure you update your insurance and things of that nature. Then they get a renewal reminder, when they get the renewal notice, they get phone calls, all those pieces, and we give them months in that time frame.
Then all of a sudden it's just like.
And then all of a sudden it's like, here's everybody, you know, and we're always, I feel like I want to high five people who are like, first week, I'm like, woo, thanks for getting in. But your time frame's gonna change based on what you need to submit. So for some applicants, we know for liquor, your insurance might be trailing the rest of your application. We don't hold up your renewal because you're not gonna pay for your insurance until closer to the expiration date. We'll move the rest all the way through and then let you submit the insurance late. As long as we have that before the renewal, like before your current license ends, we'll issue a new one without a penalty. That's where it's like we put that flexibility in, because we heard people who said, well, wait, I don't want to pay this insurance 2 months early. I want to pay it later. So if you get the rest of it done, and you're not billed and invoiced until after everything's in and approved. So it's really a yin and yang of flexibility. It's just if people take advantage of it.
And I think that flexibility is important, because in the work that we do in community development, it's similar. We try not, so, you know, it would be great to have a perfect application, everything all buttoned up. That would be the quickest review time for us, but it's not gonna meet the customer's need. We split applications, we say, okay, get us the footing and foundation, we'll get that going, get you digging, then we get this, and even with the applications that they supply, they don't provide all parts of it. We'll even accept them in different stages. That makes for much more difficult for staff, but it's a service for the customer. So,
Yeah, so final comment, and this is more of a longer term thing, but I would be great streamlining, great digital, you know, you're doing the usability stuff. I still have a question about whether we have too many regulations and, you know, so they burden the staff to try, because you have to abide by them and then burden everybody else. So I would also encourage us, is there a place for us to really do an audit of just, are all these requirements necessary? And obviously we want safety and all the things, right? But it just feels like, you know, maybe kind of overhang that we can
Yes.
trim back.
yes.
So we'll leave that out there
Yes.
for the future, because we have 3 people who still have questions. Yumi, you're next.
Oh, I am, okay, I better talk quickly. There are 3 other people, I assume. who wanna
Oh,
talk.
okay. Kim?
Yeah, okay. So, thank you, this is great. I think we're on the right track, and I think the vacancy numbers really show that.
Occupancy. We're going with occupancy.
Occupancy.
The low vacancy, the high occupancy. I would love to see more on that visitor journey that Corey was talking about, wherever you are. I think that would be really useful information, and also exit interviews, if you will, with businesses that close, would be really helpful. I am really encouraged that there are a lot of new boutique-type businesses and restaurants opening up that are more unique and make Highland Park more attractive as a destination rather than chain stores. You're making it easier and less stressful on business owners, and that hands-on approach is really helpful. The technical assistance working to get to yes, these city processes that we all think of as being, you know, easy in a way, are really complicated. And people who don't go through this every day don't necessarily understand the process, and they're not familiar with it. So when you're helping them and trying to get through that process with them, it just makes it go much more smoothly. So I appreciate you explaining this, and hopefully we can keep moving in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa.
Just to kind of echo what everyone else said, thank you. This was really helpful, and I love this guide here. That'll be great for businesses. Just a quick question. I know you talked about being proactive and that you have meetings with businesses like before they're interested or during. Is there any, like, are the business development specialists like assigned to businesses just so before it gets to a point if a business has a complaint, like you have these relationships that you check in on a regular basis with businesses?
If we know it depends. If you contacted us, if you contacted the city and we know you're interested, that's where our communication internally comes into play. We have regular meetings, you know, Joel and I have a standing meeting to kind of talk about things. We have in and out different staff members, different team members, those Thursday morning meetings. We're invited to many times as well. So yes, we absolutely, I don't know that we absolutely say like, Corey, this is your business, but we do tend to treat it that way because, okay, Corey, you've already talked to XYZ business owner, we're gonna filter things through to you. A question maybe came into Gita or to the mayor direct and staff is asked to follow up. Corey's got the relationship already, let's filter it that way.
That concierge service that you guys
Yeah.
keep talking about.
That's great.
And the interdepartmental referrals, right? So like we said at the beginning, you know, businesses come to the city from all different directions, not in one
Right.
direction. So we have to make sure that we do the appropriate referrals based on where they are in what they're trying to do.
Sure.
Quick comments.
I think, you know, one key thing, and Joel touched on this point as well, is this is such a daunting, you know, opening a business is such a daunting task. And like he said, there's a lot of empathy that you have to go along with it. One thing that I do is I do a constant business tracker or business report, and I check with businesses about every 2 weeks to just see where they're at in the process. Is there a reason why they haven't scheduled inspection yet or applied for their building permits? You just kind of check in, touch base to make sure that maybe they may have forgot to do something or something, so they can get moved along in the process.
And even if they didn't come to the business development division first, if they've submitted their LOI, we're alerted right away. This business submitted an LOI, so then it's somebody go touch base. Corey or Angela or Carol or myself or Gita, depending on the business.
Right. You,
Okay, I get my chance.
you're ready?
Okay, I'll just have to say it. I don't know that there'll be time for a response. I actually didn't know there was an architect on staff in community development.
Right.
The
Which-
four?
Three.
Three.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm
I
actually,
thought of you the minute they said that, because that's like, oh, now we have architects.
right, so
Yeah.
that would be very useful, I think, for public works, if we already have these people on staff. I think that would
That's a
be
separate issue, but
a separate
absolutely,
issue,
yeah.
but had to, saw an
Put
opening
in your
there.
plug.
Saw an opening. I wondered, could an actual staff name be listed along with a phone number to humanize it? Just to humanize it, to say, okay, this, two other ones, a few more. I would love to see more restaurant meetings. We had one on April 17th, four of us were there for it.
Right.
You were there, Mayor was there, I was there. And I don't know, at a minimum biannually, I would love to see it triannually or quarterly.
We're happy to meet. I think
Yeah.
it's a matter of their ability to
time.
meet, because their
Sure,
schedules are so
but
difficult. Yeah.
speaking to some restaurant owners, it seemed like they really like to do that.
Great.
Do you have a city meeting with commercial brokers? I know you're talking to commercial brokers,
Yes.
one-on-one, but you're actually gathering them together?
We're actually gathering them
Okay,
together. So we do
great.
that, and we do one-on-one restaurant meetings, and we have two that are not. I just had lunch with a restaurant owner the other day just to kind of talk through their experiences and what's going on in their thought process. We do that pretty regularly.
Okay,
Not
well,
always over lunch, but just the only time that worked for us both.
I think at some level it'd be great to, if there was a way to, I don't know, somehow incentivize them to, I don't have an answer for that, but incentivize them to bring customers to Highland Park. I wondered, these are kind of random here, but how do the number of license categories, I think piggybacking off of what you were asking about amount of regulations, how the number of license categories compare to other cities? I'd be really curious about that. It seemed shorter when I looked at but I don't think I was looking at it properly at other city websites. And I'm going to throw it in here. It's going to sound, I'm not sure where else to put it. I would love to see, this is really off topic, but directional signage for underground parking. I think we can't do that soon enough.
Right. All of a sudden, it's very hard to find
It
parking.
is,
and so
and.
we don't want to dissuade people from stopping.
Right, and I'm not aware of much, I haven't seen any actually. I wondered too, this is my last question, about the Placer AI, and I will say that a restaurant owner mentioned this to me, is it possible to see, how many restaurant visitors that other cities, maybe comparable either in size to us or comparable in terms of number of restaurants that they have, how many diners they're having as compared to
how we're doing.
Highland
Yeah.
Park. I thought that was an excellent question, and with all due respect, that question came actually from a conversation I had with Indus. That is it, because I do know that we need to eat dinner, and we'll talk.
And if you have other questions, or if you think of
Yeah.
something later, don't hesitate to email, and we'll have that follow-up, because we are committed to making sure everybody has the information. that they need.
My last statement, I really feel like there is a huge amount to be learned from restaurant owners. And I know that staff is getting a good chance to talk to them, but I feel I've had a bit of an education recently in it, and the more information that council can get, the better.
Absolutely,
Okay, thank you.
absolutely. So bravo and thank you. With that, I'm seeking a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Thanks for a great conversation.
Like 5 or 6 questions.